A very good afternoon, and thanks for clicking on to Vogan's European Outlook. It's the final day of June, and this is the 2 metre temperature anomaly for the month of June across the European continent. So, warmer than normal pretty much across the board. We do have in the western flank of the British Isles average conditions and average across Northern Ireland and the Republic as well. This is how the month of July is looking according to the CFSV2, which is very interesting indeed. Average conditions across most of the British Isles, warmer than normal, southeast, colder than normal actually across Northern Ireland and the Western Republic, warmer than normal once again across the continent of Europe here. So it's going to be interesting to see when all is said and done how this month it pans out overall. Now, with low pressure to the west and near the UK, high pressure over the continent, we've had plenty of heat to speak about, all the way up into the Arctic of Norway, where temperatures have broken all sorts of records. Well, certainly one record in particular was broken by as much as 5 Celsius, which is remarkable stuff. So, plenty of heat across the Arctic. It's going to get all sorts of attention, of course, from the global warming crowd, from the mainstream media, etc., etc. Failing to look at the big picture. You know, another day down in the Antarctic where it's 5 Celsius below normal, and it is kind of almost balancing out the global heat budget. You know, temperatures 0.6 or above across the northern hemisphere, but when you factor in a -5 across Antarctica, the budget is then balanced out. But of course, the focus generally tends to be on the hotspots around the world. There's even parts of the Middle East at a time of the year where it should be well into the 40s. We're actually slightly below average, but we'll look at more at that in the global weather report, of course. But certainly cooler conditions across Northern Ireland and the Republic, western flank of the UK, because of low pressure nearby. And what we've got this continuation of low pressure overhead. So a cool pocket of air aloft, strong incoming solar radiation, temperatures responding very nicely indeed, high teens, low 20s, especially with the sun shines, but that allows a lot of upward motion. Showers, thunderstorms break out quite easily in this unstable environment. When you've got an area of low pressure itself, it acts as a trigger. Frontal systems, etc., etc., allow the blow up of showers and storms to develop. That is going to continue over the next several days as we move into the weekend, and then on into next week. It's all eyes on the high pressure down near the Azores, trying to build its way up towards the British Isles. Now, I will say that at the very end of the GFS run, it's printing out some exceptionally warm temperatures across the British Isles. It is possible, given the fact that we've got the amount of heat in North Africa extending up into Europe. Like I've said, this continuation of push of extreme heat from Africa into Europe, it really doesn't take an awful lot to get that heat up into the UK. All it takes is for a little bit of weakening of that resistance of low pressure off the Atlantic, opens the door to that blast furnace heat from Africa, from parts of Central Europe where temperatures are into the 40s, and Italy, for example, Spain, into France as well. The heat is never far away, folks, and it looks as if there is the possibility that we could see some major heat to speak about during the course of this month. I think the middle portion of July is a time frame to watch for the potential of major heat to develop here. So as you can see here, through the course of the weekend, low pressure to the north, high pressure to the west-southwest. We've got that northwesterly flow that restricts the amount of warming down at the surface across the UK. Notice here an area of low pressure kind of drifting south here according to the GFS run, and we've got a kind of northwesterly component to the airflow. Then as we push towards the end of next week, high pressure tries to kind of build in off the Atlantic here, and then of course if it slips slightly further east, the door is opened to heat coming up from the south. Let's have a quick look at the 850 millibar temperatures, because it is rather interesting. So we've got, of course, the cool pocket at the moment across the UK, hence the showers, the storms, temperatures subdued for the time of the year, actually below average. You can see here as we play through the loop, there's that heat continuously putting pressure on that boundary, separating cool, fresh Atlantic air over the UK, cycled around by that area of low pressure to the north. We've got that heat coming up from the south. You've got that fight zone over France, and the low to the south, allowing that cooler to run underneath it, is essentially shutting the door to heat coming up into the UK. But you've got to say to yourself, it's got to eventually start to break. And I think it will potentially start to break. As you can see here, there is an attempt at warmer at 850, trying to push towards the UK. Now, the latest run of the GFS shows resistance of that. It kind of almost gets there, and then we've got this next trough coming in from the north here. So it's interesting. We'll play quickly through this loop again. Warm, very warm air pressing north. Then we've got, of course, areas of low pressure moving up towards Iceland. That is changing the upper air environment. Then there's a little lobe of extreme hot conditions coming out of northwest Africa up towards the UK, if you notice here. And then bang, we've got another push of cool coming down from the north here. So this tug of war is continuing. Now, folks, why would the potential be for a change in the upper air pattern to what we've got now, what we've had for the last week, 10 days, for example? Why would we see this change? And that stems all the way back down to the tropics. So as you can see here, let's have a look at the GFS forecast for the Madden-Julian oscillation. At this moment in time, the focus of upward energy, upward motion, thunderstorm activity is over the Indian Ocean. Now, we're seeing cooler normal conditions as a result of that within parts of the Indian Ocean into India, for example. Notice here, it starts to, according to the GFS at least, it starts to rotate through the Indian Ocean and into the maritime continent, i.e. Indonesia, and then eventually it's actually indicating it goes towards the Western Pacific. Now, if we look at this current chart here, this is off the velocity potential anomaly here off the GFS, 200 millibars. You can see here that the focus of heaviest upward motion, precipitation example, is all over the Indian Ocean here. A large area of downward motion, Central and Eastern Pacific, North America. We've also got upward motion over Africa at the moment. As we play through this loop here, you start to see the eastward progression of that large-scale upward motion, sinking air, crossing into North America, and eventually it then starts to move over towards Europe here. And that would indicate to me the potential for strengthening high pressure and a harder time resistance for the Atlantic, keeping that heat out of Africa and out of the UK. So it kind of is all starting to come together here, the large-scale global driving mechanisms, if you will, that allow such a setup to develop. And if you notice here, complex stuff, but interesting stuff, folks. And this is where we're trying to understand more about why, rather than, we've got any kind of given weather pattern. I want to know exactly why we're going to start to see changes, or the potential for changes. And very much the tropics can be the driver in terms of the mid and high latitude weather pattern here. So you can see here as we go through the rest of this day today, through the weekend, the heat is restricted to the continent. We've got cool conditions continuing to affect the UK as we feed Atlantic weather. We also, of course, see plenty of showers, and that cool pocket aloft is really restricting the potential warming down at the surface here. We play through into the weekend and into next week, you can still see those cool temperatures here compared to normal here. And then as we press towards the end of next week and into the weekend, long way out, we may not see this developing at all. But given the fact that the Madden-Julian Oscillation is rotating from the Indian Ocean through the continental maritime region, possibly even into the Western Pacific, that would then have an impact on the North Atlantic and European pattern. And as you can see here, as we play through towards the middle portion of the month, there is the GFS is printing out some pretty hot conditions here. So we lose the effect of the Atlantic. We may start to see that door open up to some very hot conditions. Mid-30s is a possibility, but it's a long way off. I'm really just showing you the potential in the pattern and the reasons why we may see this shift to hotter conditions. How long does it last? Will it happen at all? These are all questions that we will, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, if you read the content at markvoganweather.com, then you can get the bigger idea, the bigger picture. But certainly there is room for the potential for some pretty hot weather towards the 10th to the 15th of July if everything comes together just right. So certainly there is plenty of things worth keeping it right here on my YouTube channel for. I do encourage you to sub to the channel if you haven't already done so. Please like, and of course drop your comments also, and I would like to hear your feedback. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and I'll be back again hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.